Thank you for coming to our talk on From License to Landing. My name is Andrew Kreitzer. I'm a senior product manager at Tableau working on our at-scale team. We help shape the future of Tableau Server and Tableau Mobile. I'm joined here with Sean. Fun fact about me is I used to be a DJ and publish my songs to the internet. So unbeknownst to me, for many years, my songs were on the Bermuda radio station, and yet I've never been to Bermuda.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Sean Lee. I'm another product manager at Tableau. So we work on a lot about server and online experiences, make user easier to get started, and land on Tableau. So I worked at Tableau for over 2 years now, really enjoying my time because I'm very passionate about using data to drive a lot out of the product development process. So that was a good fun fact, but maybe a not as fun fact about myself is I'm a huge fan of America's national parks. So my personal goal is to hike in all 61 national parks of the United States. So far, I've been to 37, so just another 24 to go.
So for today's talk, we're going to be talking about role-based licensing and comparing it to core-based licensing. And I want to start out and get a poll for the audience and understand a little bit about what you all are experiencing with your deployments at home and in your offices. How many of you are on a role-based license right now? Okay, so about a third. How many in the room are considering a role-based license? So maybe another third. And how many have no idea what I mean when I say role-based license? Also an acceptable answer. Perfect. Regardless of which group you fall into today, we're going to take you on a journey of how your company can make a decision and act upon that decision to have a really successful deployment of Tableau. So what you'll come away with in this 45-minute session, where we'll leave some time at the end for your questions, is three things. The first is, what is role-based licensing? How is it different from core? What are the pros? What are the cons? And how can you go and have a conversation in your organization on having that decision, making that decision? Number two is, should you choose to go down the role-based journey, how do you manage role-based licenses? What features are available in the server to help you do that and to help you empower your users? And lastly, it's not just enough to get users in the right role. You have to make sure that when they land there, they have a great first-run experience. And so in this talk, we're going to walk through a bunch of tips, tricks, and new products, new features that create a great first-run experience for users. And we'll do this not as Andrew from Tableau and Sean from Tableau, because that would be, I don't know, a little bit boring. We'll do this as a fictional startup that we'd like you to join on this journey with us. And that fictional startup is called the Faster Scooter Company. And for those of you who have seen Something About Mary, where it's 1 minute better, Faster Scooter Company is quite similar. You see, in comparison to their scooters that only go up to 15 miles per hour, our fictional scooters go 16, which is a whole mile per hour faster, getting you to work faster or to your friend's house faster. And so our mission is to build the world's fastest, most reliable, and of course, shiniest scooters out there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Solid scooter.
So come along with us on this journey with our fake startup, Faster Scooter, and how we make decisions here.
Yep. So here's how Andrew and I are contributing to our company mission. So I am the IT director for this little company, so been there about 4 years. So what I'm thinking about is, how do we keep the cost in budget? So basically have the deployment being the most cost effective. At the same time, I need to make sure my team has the capacity to provide all the maintenance and support for all the users in the company.
And while I've only been at Faster Scooter for 1.72325 years, rounding to 1.7, I'm really interested in using the latest capabilities of Tableau because I've been using it for over 10 years, and I want to use Ask Data, Explain Data, and all of the great stuff that I saw in the keynote today. And I want to teach that to my fellow colleagues at Faster Scooter as well and make sure they're able to use it.
Yep. So I really want to share a quote from our CEO to you. So our CEO, Mary Thompson, she said, "Data is the lifeblood of our Faster Scooter company. Without it, we'll be gone faster than our scooters." So I really love that quote. We definitely don't want to be gone. So what Andrew and I both wanted is to help all of the users in our company to adopt the social analytics and use data in their day-to-day work. Yeah. So here's our situation. So we're a fast-growing company. We doubled our headcount in the last year, so to about 1,000 employees now. So currently, we have an 8-core server license deployed in our company. So it's quickly reaching capacity. It's very obvious because our user told us, oh, it's too slow, dashboard doesn't open, the background, the job didn't finish. Right. So our goal, but in the same time, our goal is we really want every user, all the new employees to start using data in their work. So Andrew and I are tasked to figure out a plan. What's the best plan for us to scale up our deployment? So for that, I really need your help, Andrew.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
So we should start with looking at our licensing model. We have an 8-core server, and we basically have 2 options. We can double our capacity to a 16-core server, and I've been talking to our Tableau sales rep about that. Or we can decide to go with this new licensing route, this role-based licensing. So the question that we have is, what licensing model should we use to scale Faster Scooter? So let's define what these things are that I've been alluding to and talking about for the last couple minutes. Core licensing is basically like having a subway car. And you can fit as many people onto that subway car as you want. You can squeeze on. You can even fit guest unnamed users onto that. But once it's full, it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's really hard to squeeze one more person on. It's just at its actual limits. The only options that you have are to buy another subway car and hitch it on, or to have a whole second train. In contrast, role-based licensing is like an all-you-can-eat buffet. As people come down from their hotel rooms at Mandalay Bay or the Mirage, they buy essentially a license to their breakfast, and when there isn't enough food, the chef will make more. And so role-based licensing allows Tableau to scale up to the exact demand at the exact times that's needed for that usage. That's making me pretty hungry, by the way, Sean.
Yeah, so to decide which model we want to use, I decided, from the IT perspective, we really need to look at 3 things. First is performance. So this is the top consideration. So we need to make sure all of our users will be able to use the server. The server is fast and can keep up with the demand. At the same time, we also need to look at cost. So basically, as IT team director, I don't want to go overboard with the cost. The third thing is maintenance. So because my team really doesn't have enough capacity to provide more maintenance than we do today, so we really need to look at performance, cost, and maintenance.
Great. So let's keep those 3 things in mind as we move forward. When we start here, I want to double-click into core and role-based licensing pros and cons, just so we're clear on whether we want to go down this path a little bit more or not.
Sounds good.
So I built a comparison side by side of the pros and cons for us, and I'll start with core-based. So core-based can have an unlimited number of users. So anyone at our company at Faster Scooter can get access to our core, our server. And we can also support guest access. In our case, we haven't really been using it, I don't think. But if we did need guest access, core is the way to go. Increasing capacity is an absolute step function change. And so I would have to go from an 8-core server to a 16, which is essentially double the cost. In contrast, RoleBased allows you to maximize the performance. So you can use the latest features like Ask Data without being concerned that you're consuming compute from other users on the server. There's no additional costs for desktop and prep licenses because they're included with our creator seat, which is a benefit for simplicity. And there's less of an upfront investment. We can scale linearly. Since we're a growing startup, if we decide to add another 200 employees, we can add on in a linear fashion. The cons, however, is that each user needs to be assigned an individual role. And that means there is a bit of management that we'll need to figure out.
That's great. Yeah, this is actually very helpful for me because now from the pros and cons, I can tell from performance perspective, role-based licensing definitely would do better for our company because now if we have more users, my team can just add hardware to the server. Right? So hardware is cheap, and we don't need to go through another budget discussion because it's not a big step function. So yeah, I like the performance aspect. But at the same time, yeah, as Andrew mentioned, that guest access is some specialty for core license. But for our company, because we really don't use it because as IT director, I don't really like the idea of having anonymous users peeking into our business data. So I'm okay with not having it. Although I understand for some organizations, it could be really important to have guest access. So now, the question is cost and maintenance. It's not really clear to me from the previous comparison. So how do we look at that?
Great. So I've also been running some models and figuring out if we were to take this leap into role-based licensing, what would our costs actually look like? In order to do that, we have to run a bit of a hypothetical of who should be in what role at Faster Scooter. So in order to get to the costs, let's agree on what our allocation of licenses looks like.
That's good.
So let's compare the costs of role-based and core. There are 3 different licenses that Tableau offers as a role-based subscription. The first is Creator, which is access to everything. You can connect to data, you can publish it, you can use our desktop products like Tableau Desktop and Tableau Prep Builder. That is our full service offering. Also, if you're an administrator, it offers you the full amount of flexibility to administer your server. The middle tier is called Explore. I'm going to get to questions right at the end. Cool. The middle tier is called Explore. Explorers can take existing content, like existing dashboards, and modify them and analyze that data, but they can't necessarily, from their own data connections, create new content. They can go to curated data sets that already exist. And finally, there's Viewers, which is, it's more of a read-only, viewing-only, and you can use all of Tableau Mobile and Tableau Server to consume and answer all of your data questions. So to summarize through these, you might be a creator if you have the word analytics or data in your title, if you create and curate data sets, and if you build dashboards from scratch and you're part of a team that does that on a regular basis.
Yes, and this one comes with desktop and prep, right?
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, looking at our company, so this will be a perfect license for our core analytics team because they create a lot of dashboards. They also curate data sources for other users. And I think our Center of Excellence will also need this because they will use it to create training materials for our users and probably even some admins in my team too.
Spot on. So you might be an explorer if you're a line of business leader and you like to get hands-on with data, but you don't necessarily go into the database itself and write the custom SQL. You're more of a creative consumer, and you like to ask your own questions and dig into your own data. You might use Ask Data, for example, to dig into that information. You can still save and publish your content for other people to see, but it's mostly of existing data on the server.
I see. So sounds like this will be good for our, say, line of business leaders and even other managers and a lot of analysts in each department, because we really want them to deeply understand their business data.
That's right. And finally, the viewer. So we believe at Faster Scooter that every employee should be making smarter decisions using data. And that means that a viewer license is at least the way to stay on top of information and get access to these dashboards and dig into them.
I agree. So everyone in our company should at least have a viewer license.
Plus, they can use Tableau Mobile, so when we're out on the field with our scooters, it's a nice bonus.
Yeah.
So, Sean, now that you've seen these 3 different roles, how do you think we should allocate them to the employees that we have at Faster Scooter? We have around 1,000 employees now. How would you allocate Creator, Explorer, and Viewer to them?
Sure. So looking at that information, so I think we probably would need about 50 Creator licenses, because we will need them to cover our core analytics team, the data steward, and the center of excellence people, and some admins in my team too. So for the rest of them, I think we probably can divide about half and half. So I will estimate about 450 Explorer license, so we can get them to all the line of business leaders, all the managers, and all of the analysts in each of the departments. Yeah. And then the rest of them, for everybody else, we want to get them viewer license, because that way everybody in the company can access to data and use data to make business decisions.
Great. So we've agreed on a proposed license mix if we were to adopt role-based licensing. Let's figure out how the numbers actually break down in terms of the cost, because I know that's a chief concern of yours, Sean.
Yes.
So on the left, we'll have the pricing for core-based. And as I mentioned, we have our existing subway car now. We're planning on doubling that subway car. So we could get 16 cores, and the math looks like this. We're currently paying $175K a year for an 8-core license, and to double it, that will get us to $350K per year. We have 1,000 employees, 12 months in a year, and so this boils down to $29 per employee per month. With our existing license mix that we just went over, if we have 50 creators, 450 explorers, and 500 viewers, the math works out to $19 per employee per month as the weighted average cost for users. So in this case, for our business, it could be better.
Wow, yeah. So yeah, given our situation, we want everybody to use the data and use the data a lot in their work. So I do see that, I'm really glad to see that role-based licensing, not only it doesn't increase our costs, but also looks like it can save us a little bit money on a per user basis. Yeah, that's great, yeah. Okay, so far I think we have looked at performance, we look at cost. Now, the only question left is maintenance. So how do we manage all the license now? It's per user.
Yeah, so we are going to ask a little bit from your team to help us manage these licenses. So I want to go to a demo now and show you what I've learned from the folks at Tableau about how to manage licenses.
Sounds good.
Okay, here I am in Tableau server, and you can see I'm logging into our default site. We have a few sites. As an admin, I have access to everything below this line in the left navigation, and I can expand it to see what those administrative functions are. In this case, I'm acting as a site administrator, where I want to add new users for a particular license to this server. So I'll go to Users, Add Users, and I've synchronized this with Active Directory. So I can add users by simply adding in their LDAP. So in this case, I'm going to add myself to this server, and I can assign a site role from this drop-down menu below. So here I have creators at the top, explorers in the middle, and viewers at the bottom. One note of distinction is explorers can have a can publish distinction, which allows them to put new content on the server, and not. We encourage users who are line of business leaders and who are doing their analysis to have that publishing capability, and you can provide them with the exact projects in which that you want them to publish. So to add this user, I simply click Import Users. And from there, I've added a user. You could also use a REST API to do this and automate some of those processes. But from a manual standpoint, it's as easy as what I've just demonstrated. You also might be managing your users through groups. And managing through groups is actually one of the recommended ways that Tableau has told me to work with Faster Scooter. To do that, I can jump to our Groups tab in the left navigation. And similar to adding a user, when I add a group, I can also add an Active Directory group. And so in this case, I will add an Active Directory group that's synchronized with our directory, corporate directory. And I'll add one called Finance Managers, which I know is a group of line of business leaders that needs to have access to information and be licensed as explorers in our system. I'll select this group, and I have a similar drop-down at the bottom of how they'll be licensed. For groups, it works a little bit differently. So they will be licensed automatically. So I'll go ahead and license them as Explorer Can Publish. And in a few moments, this will update and indicate a new line. And you can see this column called Minimum Site Role is populated. The way minimum site role works is if you're a member of multiple groups, you can be upgraded by being part of certain groups. So if all of the employees at Faster Scooter are viewers, we could add viewer to our all users group. And then for any individuals, we could make Explorer and Creator the exception to that rule. For Active Directory, we have settings. So as a server administrator, you can go to the settings and see your Active Directory synchronization. And what this will allow us to do is when we have a new finance manager joining, he or she will be automatically allocated an Explorer license because they're part of that AD group. And so here I can synchronize on a regular schedule, whether that be every 15 minutes or every day, depending on what your organization's preference is. We've recently added a new feature in organizations where not every user has a license, and you want them to be able to request a license. And the feature is called Sign-In Customization. There's a number of ways you can use this feature. For example, you could use this feature to notify when maintenance is going to be occurring before someone logs in. You could also use this to allow someone to get access to a request service like ServiceNow, where you're adding new licenses to those users. So in this case, I'll add a note here that says, interested in data, get a license here. And below that, I can add our ServiceNow link to Faster Scooter.
That's great.
When I save this, and I go back to the server as a new user, I'll see right below the sign-in that there's now this easy action to go get a license for people who are in a stuck situation. So there's one more thing that I want to show you that's coming soon to Tableau Server, and I know will address one of your concerns, Sean.
That's great.
But first, a few takeaways. Oh, actually, I'll jump right to it. So in organizations where one site has some limitations, for example, we want to have a finance site where we only have 5 creators on it, Tableau is launching a new feature that has site role limits so that effectively organizations that are managed in a departmental fashion can have limits on those individual sites and not use too many licenses from another site.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we can really use this for our HR site. because the HR team really doesn't want the IT team go messing around with their members.
Perfect. So a few takeaways. One is that you can manage licenses through our users and our groups section within Tableau Server as either a site admin or a server admin. You can synchronize your users and groups with Active Directory to automate licensing by group, and in fact, that's our best practice. You can also use our REST APIs if you have your own method of how you want to synchronize. And lastly, you can add second to last, you can add a sign-in note for users who aren't licensed so that they can get access to a site like ServiceNow to request a license. And finally, when you're splitting your server, you have a centrally managed server, but the cost is split between multiple departments, you can use site role limits to split the server and not have one team take too many licenses from another.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it looks like all these will provide a lot of automation for my team. So my team doesn't need to go in and manually assign license for each new member. This is great news. Yeah. So far, I think we have looked at performance, and cost, and now maintenance. Yeah, it definitely looks like role-based license not only provide the best performance for our company, at the same time, it doesn't really increase the cost or maintenance for my team. That's great. Yeah, let's go with role-based licensing to increase our capacity.
Awesome.
Yep.
I cannot wait to use Ask Data, Explain Data, all of the latest features in Tableau Server that use a lot of compute so that we can get our maximum performance.
Yeah, I know. But at the same time, hold on for few more moments.
Okay.
Because there's a few more things we still want to do on the server to make sure our new users, when they come in, they will have the best first-run experience. Remember back in the days when we just started Tableau in our company, we struggled with the engagement of new users. Yeah, a lot of people told me they don't use it, they don't know where to start, and we learned a few lessons along the way. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few features from Tableau that really make it easy for us to help our users. Okay, let me switch to our, okay. So I'm going to sign in first as my own user account, which is the Explorer. Yeah. So the first thing you notice is this is the home page. I think you took a quick look in our keynote today. But I just want to point out quickly 3 things on this page that really make it easy for our users. The first thing is that there's a welcome banner in the top with some information about Tableau, but it also provide a call to action, which is based on my site role. So it will be different for different users in different roles. So that would get users started with their most common task. After that, there are favorites and reasons. Those will really come handy once the user started opening dashboard, or started favorite some content, so they will be right here. And then after that is recommendations. So this is what you saw in the keynote today, in the view recommendations. So here, what happened was Tableau used machine learning to look at all the activities of the users was similar to myself, and then recommend the content to me that potentially I would be interested in. So that will be really helpful for our new user because now they can know which of those contents they could be potentially useful. They can start with them. Okay. At the same time, since I'm the IT director of my company, I want to do more on this page because we have very specific getting started resources and support information I want to provide to my users. So fortunately, Tableau has another feature to help me doing that. Okay, so to demo that, let me sign out and then sign back in as my server administrator. Yeah, notice that we also customized the sign-in logo here, so that will get our user familiar with the site.
That's a really nice touch.
Okay, so now I sign in as a server administrator. I will go to Manage All Sites, Settings. Now there's a new tab called Customization. So there, I can add a custom message on my server. Yeah, notice that I can also disable the default banner if I wanted to. Although, yeah, for now, I would just keep it there. So like I said, we have some start resources I really want to provide to my users, so I can just say, give them a little bit welcome to our BI site, and visit BI portal for getting started resources. I'll make it bigger. And at the same time, I can hyperlink the BI portal so that the user can just go there. Yep. And I also wanted to provide our contact, my team's support information, so that when they get stuck, they have questions, they know where to reach out to. So let me add issues, questions, contact, BI support. Same way, I can just hyperlink the BI support to our email address, biSupport@fasterscooter.com. Now I can preview it. I see that, just double check the hyperlinks are right. So now, once I save this change, I go back to my site. So any user, when they sign in, they come to the home page, they will see the information right there in the welcome banner. Okay, cool. So this should be very helpful for most of our users. But some of our team really want their users not to browse everything, but look at very specific content for their job. So for example, our support team. So our technical support team, they kind of don't want their users to browse around. So they want their users, whatever they come in, they always come to look at two very important support dashboards. So for that team, what we can do is we can set a different start page. So you just navigate to the page and then come to your account kind of menu, set a start page, make it bigger. For users on this site. Okay, yeah. Once they do that, now whenever any user sign in to the support site, they would, instead of landing on home, they would just land on the support dashboard page so that the user can just get started right away looking at the most important content. So in the same way, if you click the logo here, it will also come here instead of coming to the home page. Okay. Yeah. I just want to point out that we also customize all the logos on the site just to make it familiar to our users, and also the title and the tab. Cool. Switch back. Okay, so just to recap, so what we did, we will show you is we added a custom message to the home page to show our users what the support information, and also where they can go get some very specific resources for our organization. We also show you how to set a different start page for the team who really want their users to go to the specific content. And don't forget to customize the whole site with using TSM.
Sean, this is great. How do users find out about the site, how to get there?
That's a great question. Yeah. So the landing experience is great, but if the user don't sign in and don't land, then they will not be useful for our users. So it's actually happening for our company. A couple of years back, when we just started, we found a lot of users don't even sign in to the site. And when we talked to them, we figured out that they didn't even know they get invited to the site. So one thing I want my team to also do is, so they create this welcome email for each of our new users. So in the email, we told them what kind of data is on the site. We also tell them a little bit about why they should care, why they should sign in. So we just put our CEO's quote right there. So that should be enough to nudge most of people to sign in. Yeah. And we also provide some key dashboard so that they know where they can start with. Yeah, again, we also wanted to put our support information right there in the email. In case they forget, they can always go back to the email and look up. Lastly, but most importantly, we put a big fat sign-in link right there in the middle of the email. I cannot tell you how many times users reach out to my team just to ask, where do I sign in? I couldn't find a link. Cool. Of course, we want to automate all of this because I don't want my team to manually send out the email to each new user, right? So the automation will really depends on kind of the process in each organization. So for us, since we use ServiceNow, so my team just configure the ServiceNow workflow so that the ServiceNow would send this email whenever a ticket got closed. Okay. So we went through that. Okay, great. Yeah. So how many of you are ready to buy a scooter from us now? Cool.
So we started out with 3 questions.
Yep.
What is role-based licensing? How do I manage role-based licensing? And how do I create a good first-run experience? And so we hope in this talk you've come away with information on all 3 of these, and that you can start to answer those for yourself and for people within your organization. And when you're faced with a question of core versus role-based, you can use this as a framework for making a decision. I think for Faster Scooter Co., it makes a lot of sense to go to role-based. Of course, it could be very different depending on what your organization's footprint is like. So definitely do your research, talk to your account reps, and we're here to help advise and answer questions for the next 20 minutes or so.
Yep.
So before we do that, I just want to thank everyone for joining. There's a website here that has the breakdown of Creator, Explorer, and Viewer licenses. And please make sure that you fill out the survey for this session, what you think. Your feedback is really important to us and helps us get better and better each year. So with that, let's go to Q&A.